Good afternoon, everyone. So I guess we're now ready for the afternoon session. So we're now about to listen to the last module. Yes, ma'am.
Josie,
Yes, ma'am.
there are only 15 participants and that includes about 5 of our people. Kaya siguro hindi pa we can wait for another
okay po.
Mga 5 to 10 minutes. Doc Ami, okay lang ba sa'yo mga 5 to 10 minutes just to allow the other participants to get in? Sayang naman kasi yung input pag hindi na.
Check ko nga kung ano yung...
there are only 15. Tapos,
wala kasi akong kasama.
nandun yung SPRC, extension, nandyan si Jed, nandyan si Clary Ann, ako, ikaw, mga technical team. Tapos nandun si Daniel. So, dito na kaagad yung bawas dun sa 14, no? Yeah. So, ibig sabihin, counting-counting pa yung dumating. Okay, Alvin Balyaran came in. So, let's admit more people.
Sa 54. Dati.
This morning, there were about 20, no, participants. Minus yung mga facilitators. Kasi 30, nag-total ng 30. But I counted all the people from the technical team plus me, mga 10 yun.
So before we start po, we want to remind also our participants to register through the link given by Engineer Vela. So don't forget to register for this afternoon session. Thank you. So once again, good afternoon to all our participants and especially to our resource persons for this webinar workshop on doing ethnography. So I guess we're now ready to the last session of our webinar workshop. So at this point, let me introduce our resource person for this afternoon. Her interest in anthropology was born out of early friendship with Lawrence Wilson, an American anthropologist who first discovered the presence of Pleistocene remains of elephant bones and teeth in the Cagayan Valley in the early 50s. Larry, as he is fondly called by old-timers in Baguio, also wrote extensively of the folklore of the Cordilleras. Born in Baguio, a city of gardens designed by Daniel Burnham, the famous builder of cities, brought her in close contact with the native Ibaloys or Nabaloy, who through many canal ritual she and her Tagalog migrant parents have participated in. And as fate would write it in stone, she had a brief encounter with Dr. Margaret Mead in a conference at the Old Pines Hotel in the late 1950s, not knowing how famous she really was and what child rearing practices got to do with anthropology. In 1964, as an AB student at UP Diliman, she met Dr. H. Oatley Bayer. A personal conversation, the first and the last, stirred her to take anthropology seriously as a degree. While still a student, she was to assist anthropology graduate students in field interviews, did apprenticeship under Dr. Alfredo Evangelista at the National Museum to catalog pottery shards and artifacts, and few months after became research assistant to Dr. Robert B. Fox for NM Private Foundation sponsored projects in prehistoric archaeology, Laguna de Bay archaeology, and Santa Church archaeology. In 1967, she joined Dr. Fox in doing ethnographic research among indigenous peoples under the Presidential Assistant for National Minorities Foundation. Agta of Palanan, Batangan of Mindoro, Batak of Palawan, and together with then Minister Manuel Elizalde Jr., was to be the youngest member of the research team on the Tasaday rainforest people since its discovery in 1971, where she did an inventory and collection of their material culture for the Museum of Living Traditions at Nayong, Pilipino. Even before the hype on the hoax controversy, she did the first genealogical study on the Tasaday in 1971 and a paper she presented at the invitation of the American Anthropology Association at Washington, D.C. through Dr. Thomas Hidland and screened by a selection panel of key figures in anthropology, Dr. Fred Egan, Dr. Harold Conklin, and Dr. Carl Hotterer. While in Washington, she was offered to work with the Ethnological Division of the Smithsonian Institute to catalog its Philippine artifacts collection. But cataloging thousands of Philippine objects on storage with minimal information on its tags was like digging into the past, reconstructing and extracting information from the archives. For the next 4 decades to date, she would specialize in the fields of ethnology, applied anthropology, museology, museology, ethnographic videography, and corporate social responsibility with indigenous peoples' rights to their ancestral domains as her advocacy. For institutional affiliations, she has worked with the Division of Anthropology of the National Museum as Chief Enthologist, Presidential Assistant for National Minorities Foundation, as Applied Anthropologist, and Assistant Curator to the Museum of Living Traditions, Nayong Pilipino, the Saday Community Care Foundation, the Baguio Mountain Province Museum, the Cordillera Schools Group, the Butuan Regional Museum, Pilan International Baguio, and several others as consultant. With the pandemic, she works from home taking free online courses related to cultural studies, to learning technology for teachers, to assisting SPED teachers in thesis research on inclusive education for persons with learning disabilities, tracking community updates through Messenger with Tiboli, Matigsalog, and Tasaday Friends, and presently exploring ethnography in between crocheting and watching Korean telenovelas. Until the pandemic is over, annotating the field diaries of Dr. Robert B. Fox on the Tagbanwa is a work in progress. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome our resource person to discuss on material culture, Ma'am Amelia Rohel Rara.
Share screen, share screen. Ano ba? Okay. So, alin ba dito? Mhm. Okay na? Kita na screen ko?
Hindi pa nakita, Doc Ami. Ayan, okay, lumabas na Doc Ami.
I initially wanted to have the part 1 already with the participants, but then I think they didn't get the modules in time because I was also late to have them delivered. But anyway, they can do the whole module on their own actually because andun na lahat ng links eh. And they can consult me anytime if they want, they have some questions. So kahit yung hindi nagpa-participate can use the modules and on their own they can really learn material culture. But anyway, going to my topics, I'll just talk about material culture as a tangible cultural heritage kasi ethnography, and material culture as biographical objects. So this morning, there's this issue about ethics. I wanted to know from what perspective are we talking about material culture? From the perspective of the ethnographer or from the perspective of the IP? Because these are two different worldviews, totally different. From the IP worldview, sa kanila kasi, usually traditional people do not differentiate between object and person. So kahit na bato siya, meron pa rin siyang personality, tao pa rin siya. So sa ethnographer, wala tayong ganyang duality, di ba? But traditional peoples do not live in a conceptual world governed by humans alone. They recognize the coexistence of other than human beings, animals, ancestral spirits, natural forces living side by side. Kasama nilang
Doc
kumakain.
Ami,
Yes.
pwede mong i-enlarge ng konti. Medyo mahirap basahin yung ano.
Teka.
Kasi hindi kasi naka-slideshow, kaya baka pwedeng i-magnify ng konti.
Magnify po. Ako ba ma-magnify siya?
Hindi pa yung ano, meron po sa baba na ano, yung parang lever na may percentage ng ano, ng i-maximize po. Sa baba po. If you put in the cursor at the lower.
Got it.
Okay po. So pwede pong i-increase yung ano niyan. Ang yan. Masyado pong marami yan. Konti-konti pa po. Konti pa po.
Ay, napuputol.
Yan, pwede na po siguro.
Okay.
Ma'am, F5 po, pwede pong slideshow.
F5.
Opo, ma'am.
Ayaw naman.
Ma'am?
Doc Gern, Ayan, okay na po.
Okay na po, ma'am.
Okay. May naririnig, Doc Girlie, naririnig ang boses mo. Doc Ami, you can unmute yourself na.
Nga pala, ano ba yan? Hindi kasi meron akong 4 na PPT. So I want to move from one PPT to the other. Kung naka-big screen ako, how do I do it? How can I get my other PPTs? Anyway, sige, tuloy na muna ako. Under traditional ethnography, culture is divided into material and non-material. Pero under cultural heritage, culture is cultural heritage and material culture is tangible cultural heritage and intangible cultural heritage. Pero hindi ako magdi-discuss niyan. I would like to proceed. Ayun naman. How do I go? Ayaw mag-move ang slide ko. Ayun. Why study material culture? Kasi sa akin, under whose perspective are we studying material culture? From our lens or from the lens of the IP? Hindi ba ang ating objective is to look at the lens of material culture from the perspective of the IP? Traditionally, indigenous people do not live in a conceptual world governed by humans alone. They recognize they coexist with other than human beings. So sa ethnography kasi, we talk about ourselves and the other. Pero sa pagdating sa IP worldview, there's no other. Person pa rin yan kahit na inanimate siya. All of these are construed as persons, living causal agents with the capacity to manifest, transform, and direct powers. Any person who meddles with the delicate balance between human and other than human worlds, disrespecting relationships, stealing property, abusing power, or otherwise transgressing cultural norms might be rightfully be accused of behaving like a social savage. So tayo yung social savage, tayo mga ethnographers. Doing material culture, ang approach ko is biographical. Meaning, objects should be talking. Things tell the stories of people's lives. And let objects speak. Itong image dito is pagdiwata, yung babalyan sa Palawan. So all the objects that she's holding talks to her. So when she's into trance, lahat yan gumagalaw. And if you are present in any of the pagdiwata rituals, you can see that even the dolls dance. So nagkakaroon siya ng spirit, sumasayaw talaga siya. So how do you differentiate the material culture object from the perspective of the anthropologist and from the perspective of the IP kung magkaiba tayo ng worldview? Let me play this so you can see. Ito, akwan siya. Paano ba ito i-play? Ayaw.
You just click lang po.
Ayun. Wala yung anak kong teke eh. Tina. Okay.
Hello po, ma'am. Hello po. Parang wala pong gumagalaw po sa PowerPoint po niyo po, ma'am.
Hindi, itong pinapatugtog ko.
Tugtog lang po.
Ito yung video.
Ay, hindi po nakikita po yung video, ma'am.
Ay, hindi nakikita?
Opo.
Ami, pwede mong yung share sound din. Merong sound na kailangan bago ka mag-share ng video. Para marinig yung sound.
Share. Saan ko pupunta? Nakalagay dito, stop share lang sa taas. Ayaw. Balik na lang ako sa
Egypt, the richest source of archaeological treasures on the planet.
Oh.
Narinig na yung sound pero walang nakikita naman.
Oo.
Beneath this desert landscape lie the secrets of this.
Wala po kasing video.
Walang video?
Wala po, ma'am.
Balik na lang tayo sa slide ko.
For a full season of excavation.
Okay.
A lot of human activities generate greenhouse gas, generating
Anong
transportation,
pindutin ko?
food, heating buildings,
Slide share ka uli.
like steel.
Tapos palabasin mo yung mag-slide share ka uli Doc Ami. Slide share tapos yung video, yung yung PowerPoint mo.
But because we need to get to zero emissions by 2050, we have to come up with an alternate way, which isn't too much more expensive.
Yan, okay na.
Those same activities
And making
without
But your video is still playing, kaya hindi ko rin alam kung ano yung video na nagpo-play.
way of doing it to the approach that creates no emission. So
New
the
secrets of the
actual
boy
exit
king.
pod called green using green jet fuel is very high premium. In the United States, a gallon of jet fuel averages about $2.20.
discovers a
One way to go green is instead of taking that oil out of the ground that has carbon from billions of years ago coming up in the atmosphere, we can take oil by generating it from plant material or biowaste or even algae. Biofuel costs $5.35.
ba video ko?
The Valley of the Kings.
Ayan na. Pinatay ko na. Pabalik. Share. Okay. Nahirap pala may audio, no? Let me go back to my approach.
Okay.
Okay. I'm looking at artifacts here as persons na merong boses, may biography. So they're just not dead objects that we take for granted. Kasi meron din silang spirit and soul. From the perspective of the IPs, that is how they look at things. Not tayo minsan di tayo naniniwala. But especially yung mga idol images like Bulol, pag nagkaroon na yan ng bloodletting yan, meron na yung soul, nabinyagan na yan ng kaluluwa ng tao mo. In the same manner na sa Higaonon, kahit yung shell lang na bilog na maliit, maraming dugo yun sa loob. Pag tumutunog na yung umiingay, it's time for them to go head hunting. Meron sound yun. In the same manner, like yung bato sa mga tingyan sa Abra, hindi mo pwedeng apakan yun kasi meron yung may mga hawak na mga agimat yun. At saka may mga puno na meron talagang may nag-aalaga. Kaya I've been working in the museum since how many decades, and living inside the museum, working inside the museum is like living in a cave na walang kang kausap. And ang feeling mo, if you work inside the storage, especially before, sa museum, we used to stay dun sa old museum building near PGH. And it's really a storage then, where you have to inhale everything na dust, at saka may mga kasama pa kami mga bungo. At hindi siya, it's so difficult to identify artifacts na wala ng label, ng kinain na, ng binukbok na at lahat. Most of the collections of the National Museum were part of the St. Louis Exposition of 1904. Half of that was looted, half of that was burnt. But andun pa rin siya, except wala na siyang mga labels. How will you identify an artifact that has no more label? No more, and kung hindi ka nag-field work and you haven't gone around the different parts of the IP communities, you cannot identify one object with another. Para lang siyang bamboo, bato, palyok, but it has no meaning at all. So how do you analyze objects? Observe the object carefully. Andun lahat yung details. So, para kang humahawak ng, bumibili ka ng, di ba, bibili ka ng brilyante o singsing, di ba? Iniikit-ikit mo pa yan. Bibili ka ng plato, bibili ka ng damit, iniikit-ikit mo yan, tinitingnan mo kung kompleto. Meron kasi ditong handbook, which is ang kapal-kapal, which I don't think ready pa yung ating participants. But kung gusto naman nila, it's available. I can send them the soft copy of the book. It's a handbook on material culture. And it will, andun lahat yung mga gusto nyong basahin. Okay. Ayaw ko na mag-video at baka mag-hang. So, ang ginagamit ko dito ngayon ay indirect observation. Kasi hindi naman tayo nag-fieldwork pandemic, di ba? But there are ways and means that we can analyze objects by going through the archives, libraries, museums, online. Ang ginagamit ko madalas itong archive.org. Ang dami mo makukuha ditong rare document. At itong site na ito, marami ka rin makukuha rito. For those who want to look at old photographs, marami rito kang digital photos and rare documents that is available online. So if you want to do an inventory of a material culture in some community, you can do it using references from rare books. In fact, these are all the forms which came from the National Archives in the US. So meron niyang how to analyze an artifact, how to analyze a video, how to analyze a photograph, how to analyze a map, na lahat ng kailangan mo for doing artifact analysis. But what's missing here? How do you analyze field notes? Mga field notes na ginagawa ng mga anthropologists. Itong hawak ko, I'm holding, I have 5 of the diaries of Dr. Fox, which he recorded in 1950. These are field notes on Tagbano material culture and religion. Dr. Fox used to be the head of the National Museum, and he has been doing a lot of ethnographic research all his life until he died when he was still young at 60. He discovered Tabon Caves, and he was also with us when we discovered Tasaday. Ito yung sample ng field note. This is 1950-year-old field notes. So you can see how wala pang camera. He doesn't have any camera. So he goes illustrating all the items. May labels, lahat yan detalyado yan. And then he builds a vocabulary in Tagbanwa. So this is how an ethnographic a field notebook should look like. So if you're doing material culture studies, importante yung illustrations. Hindi ka lang nagno-note taking. Nag-i-illustrate ka ng item. And bawat detalyado ng, and then you have to ask your Tagbanwa in the language, kasi in Americano siya, so he has an interpreter. But then he's very keen. He has a very good listening skills, and he can write the words as he hears them. So ito, at saka magaling siya mag-drawing. So you can see how detailed his drawings are. So as you go every day, lahat ng notebook niya merong detalye ng material culture. Hindi nawawala kasi sa kanya, ito yung way of life ng mga tao eh. It shows you what the functions are, how it is made, materials used, and not only that, even the jars have genealogy. Lahat ng jars na yan are relatives. They cannot be separated from one another. So every time there's a ritual, a rice wine ritual, all of them are put together at meron din silang seating arrangement. Kasi magkakamag-anak nga sila. And every time that the babalyan is initiating a prayer, she calls all the spirits of the ancestors. So several generations yan na tinatawag niya yan. And these are trade pieces. These are not locally made. These are trade wares from the different dynasty ng China. May Ming, may Yuan, may Sung. But usually mga Ming dynasty jars ito na traded. So you could imagine how many, how long these jars have been with them. And these are jars which have names as well. Pag isang family yan, they have a genealogy. Hindi ko mapakita rito yung isang genealogy chart. So this is the metal forger for making metal for bolos. The Malay Forge. It's in Palawan, it's all over, it's up to the Cordillera. So, lahat yan detalyado, so you can see, pati pagkain, kung paano sila uupo sa mesa. And then pati yung script, since it's so difficult to write on bamboo, yung kanyang Tagbanwa, dito na sumulat ng Tagbanwa script sa notebook niya. There are only two groups in the Philippines that are still using the old script, the Tagbanwa and the Hanunoo. So ito na yung mga near extinction na mga old script natin. But if you are doing ethnography, how will you interpret all this? How will you annotate? And also not only that, how do you preserve the notebook na nagkakagutay-gutay na? And then I was in Palawan when I met some of the informants about 10 years back. Wala na siguro yung mga patay na. But I mean, these notebooks really meant a lot to them. So I'm working on annotating this one. And if you are, and the material collection of this one are at the National Museum. Ang ginawa ni Dr. Fox, all the items that he was drawing here were also collected and placed at the repository of the National Museum. So if anybody's interested to do the Tagbanwa material culture, I can share you the notebooks, kasi digitized na siya. And then also you can look at the artifacts at the National Museum. And here's another site which you can, wala itong music, so okay lang to. If you're doing material culture research, you can go into this site and navigate. Andyan yung mga, but all these collections are not in the Philippines. They're all outside of the country. So you can imagine how many artifacts are lost. Nandun sila lahat, pero wala dito. So what they're doing, this is a project which they call mapping of Philippine material culture. But the thing is, they're mapping material culture in museums abroad, nothing in the Philippines. Wala pa tayong ginagawang ganito. So if you go here, ayan o. You can navigate and then items, you can go to the items. And bawat item yan, and dito yung mga places where our Philippine artifacts are located. So you can go there. See, that's where our artifacts are. A lot of our artifacts are in the Middle East, in Germany. This came from Agusan. Do you know that this is missing? It got lost at the National Museum. Now it's in, I don't know where it is, somewhere, somebody has stolen it, and it's not in the Philippines. It was a Garuda image from Agusan. So, and this is how they describe, they describe the items. Para kaming librarian. You catalog everything, but then you go beyond the description. Ang tawag nga dito, that's why we are doing the biographical description now. Kasi dati one label lang eh. One label lang. Ngayon, pahaba ng pahaba. Hanggang mamaya may kwento na siya. Tapos pati exhibits ngayon nagiging online na oh. If you want to look at daggers, ayan o. So you can navigate this site. You can, I gave you the link. Just navigate this site. And pag-aralan nyo paano mag-describe ng artifact. At saka you get familiar with, ang problema lang with some of these artifacts, you don't know where they came from. Kasi wala akong minsan provenance. Provenance is where they originated from. Although may mga guesses kung sinong gumawa, you can identify because of some associated pieces already in Smithsonian or elsewhere, but still, a lot of these pieces were stolen from the country. Ang pinaka-sad part nito, most of those who took artifacts from the Philippines were the Germans before the Americans came. We had a lot of German scholars who collected artifacts. But the thing that they collected most were human skulls and bones. Kasi pinag-aaralan nila to tinitingnan nilang anatomy, compare nila tayo to the European para tayong pinaka-lowest of the races. At that time, napaka Darwinian pa ang theory. So sa tingin nila tayo andun sa pinakamababang level ng creation ni God. So pwede nyo itong i-navigate. You can go Asia, Africa, and see what is there. Pero I think what we should do in the Philippines as well is to do similar mapping of our artifacts. Nasaan ba sila? Kasi wala na nawawala na. Kahit na meron tayong Cultural Properties Act, they get looted and brought out of the country. Teka, babalik na ako sa aking slide. Okay, where's my slide? I'd like to show you the reason why I wanted to show you the mapping. Yung mapping project, bago lang yon. It's actually just last year. It was newly launched. And it's mapping material culture. But a lot of those are outside of the country. So what do we have in the Philippines? This is the map, which is the first scientific map made in 734. If you look closely, ang nandun sa mapa, nakadrawing doon, aside from yung mga Chino, andun yung ating mga Negrito. And they call, iba-ibang ang tawag yung ibang tawag sa kanila, Capres. Yung iba, Arta. So, ito yung mapa na, tapos noon, nung time na yon, wala pang identified na IP. Ito lang, Igolotes, Ilonggotes, Italones. Kaya, anong plano natin gawin para sa mga Negrito natin na Manide ba? Manide. Ito yung mapa ng ginawa ng 1890 na andyan yung mga ethnic groups. Ito yung part ng Camarines Sur. Ang tawag sa mga Negrito rito, infieles pobres. So, ito naman ang ginawa noon nila Blumentritt at saka isa-distribute ang mga Negrito. Ngayon, ito na yung mapa ng lahat ng ethnic groups sa Pilipinas na may 120, mahigit. Pero hindi mo makikita kung saan naka-identify ang Negrito. Kung gusto nating gumawa ng i-share ko naman ngayon ito yung mga Germans na nangolekta ng mga artifacts sa Philippines. Etong si Schadenberg, nakikita niya may hawak siyang skull. Kolekta sila ng mga skull at saka bones at dinadala nila sa iba-ibang museum sa Europe. Ngayon ang tanong ko, mga katulad nito, ika-classify mo ba yan na material culture? At saka yung mga buto-butong kinokolekta nila. Kasi tangible siya, nahahawakan mo eh. Parang yung mamis din natin. Nahahawakan mo. Sa kanila, hindi yung mamis na nakalagay sa coffin object. So, magkaiba tayo ng perspektiba. Ito yung mga kuha nila ng mga katutubo natin noon. No? Yan. Ayan ang kanilang paboritong mga pose. Ito yung mga warriors natin sa Bontok. Ganito sila noong dumating si Dean Worcester. Ganito sila. At kahit ngayon meron pa rin mga ilan-ilan. Ito yung mga negrito sa Abra. Ganito itsura nila. Ganito rin ba itsura ng mga negrito sa Camarines Sur? Ganito sila naglilibing sa mga kuweba-kuweba. Ganito sila manamit. Tapos, mahilig silang magkukuha ng mga muka at sinusukat ang mga ulo ng tao. Kasi nga, tinitingnan nila kung ang utak natin ay maliit, ibig sabihin, mas mababa tayo sa human race. Introduce ko naman kayo kay itong museum. Dati hindi ito ang National Museum. Bago na ito, dati ito yung Senate. Ang mga nagtayo, ang birth ng museum ay nung 1901 pa. Ito si Dean Worcester. Ang ginagawa niya, pag pumupunta siya sa communities, may dala siyang pornographo. Nagpapatugtog siya, so nakaka-attract siya ng mga nanonood. Hindi siya yung method nating fieldwork na pupunta ka sa bahay-bahay, hindi. Kasi syempre, attractive sila sa ganitong sounds, di ba? So, si Dean Worcester ay isang colonial officer, ethnographer, photographer. Ang fascination niya ay mag-photograph. At dahil sa ginawa niyang photography na dito na ilagay sa National Geographic, naging lumakas ang subscription ng National Geographic dahil sa atin. Ito yung mga laman ng kanyang mga pinagkukuhang mga katutubo. Manamit, lahat, kanya, tsura. Okay. Bilisan ko lang. Ganito ang mga suot nila. Ganito, ganito.
Wala.
Yan, ganyan mga kuha niya.
Ma'am?
Oo.
Wala po kami nakikitang pictures
Wala?
maliban sa map.
Talaga?
Yes po.
Kaya ako dito na doon. Stop share. Niya meron? Meron na?
Wala pa po, ma'am.
Bakit kaya? Meron na?
Yes po, ma'am. Meron na po.
Okay.
Meron na po, ma'am.
Ay, naku. Wala kasi anak kong teki eh. Okay. Simula. Ay, eto meron na.
Yes po.
Ulit.
Meron na po.
Itong National Museum ngayon. Pero bago dito, dun muna yan sa kantong-kanto ng Pedro Hill, malapit sa PGH. Ang nagtayo ng ang behind the mga responsible sa pagtayo ng National Museum o Museum ng Ethnology ay si Dean Worcester. Kasama siya sa first at saka second commission. Kasi bago nagkaroon bago dumating ang Amerikano, nandito na kasi siya. At mahilig siyang zoology siya, hindi naman talaga siya ethnographer. Pero mahilig siya sa photography. So, ang kanyang contribution sa ethnography ay dahil ang dami-dami niyang kuha ng mga litrato ng mga katutubo sa iba-ibang parte ng Pilipinas. Pero hindi niya yan tinatawag na IP. Lagi niya kinaklasify sila as non-Christian. So, hiwala yung Christian sa non-Christian at saka Muslim. Ito, kita nyo na. Ito siya, pag nagpupunta siya sa mga community, lagi siya may dalang portable na ganito para speaker na yan at tugtog ng kanya musika. So, nakaka-attract siya ng mga katutubo. Dahil sa hilig niya sa photography, lahat ng kanyang kuha, dito niya pinapublish sa National Geographic. At halos yung buong issue nito ng National Geographic, puro lahat kuha. Siya rin ang nagtayo ng PGH, yung UP College of Medicine. Kita ba? Ito yung nasa loob ng magazine, mga kuha niya ito. So, nung panahon na yan, nakita mo yung colored na, makikita mo yung detalye ng mga suot-suot ng mga ninuno natin, mga katutubo. Lahat ng mga suot na yan, meron yung symbol. Bukidnon, Bagobo, Dilaan, Bukidnon, taga-Kaolo, mga taga-Mindanao ito. Tiruray, sa Mindanao din. Ito yung Moro Dato, banda na lang Suyan. Subanon, mga Muslim na rin yan. Manobo, ang Manobo, maraming Manobo, hindi lang iisa. Maraming grupong Manobo. Kaya lang, kinlasify lang nilang Manobo. Manobo lahat yan. Ito hindi yan Manobo, nagkamali sila ng label. Yung mga ganitong merong ganito, kadalasan yan, mga Mandaya yan o Mansaka. Ito ang Ata Manobo, Negrito rin yan, at saka ito Negrito. Hindi nila nilalagyan ng pangalan kung Eta, Ata o ano. Ito Mandaya. Lagi yan mayroong nga taba ako sa bunganga. Ito, malaking coin ito ng silver coin na pinitpit yan. Tapos ang mga earplugs nila, ginto yan. Kuminsan kahoy na malalaki. Ito yung mga warriors nila, lagi, pag may nakita kang ganyang headdress, sigurado ka Mandaya yan. Ito sa Benguet. Kaya meron siyang mga makikita niyo kung ma-identify niyo siya kung saan lugar siya, kung familiar ka sa mga communities na pinupuntahan niyo at pinag-aaralan niyo. Yan. Yan. Bontok. Ganyan noon ha. Noon, ganyan. Ifugao, may mga tattoo pa rin. Ang tattoo, pwede rin mo isama rin sa material culture kasi meron niyang memories. Para ng libro yan. Mababasa mo yung storya ng buhay niya bilang warrior. Hindi lang siya tinatuan kasi tinatuan siya. Meron siyang ibig sabihin. So, ayan. Ilongot. Mangyan. Ngayon, itong kaya importante na tinitingnan niya yung mga literature nung una kasi ang mga labels talaga naman napaka-negative. Katulad nito, Though essentially a war tribe, the Bagobos have curious religious beliefs which incite them to certain bloodthirsty and repulsive deeds in warfare. They take only the head of their slain enemy, but the hands and heart as well. So biro mo, ganyan description nila. Even within recent years, they have been guilty of human sacrifice, and their custom was to eat the sacrificial victim. All of them owned slaves, obtained either by purchase or capture, and it was a slave who usually offered at the annual festival for their god Diwata. Kung ethnographer ang ethnographer hindi magsusulat ng ganito. Hindi ka magsusulat ng ganitong teksto tungkol sa mga taong pinipicturean mo. Ito naman yung isa. A chief Ato of the Bagobos, spotted red and yellow costume shows that he has killed men. Like most, he is never without his weapons. The great bolo worn on his left side and the short stabbing knife at the right. Note the huge ivory ear ornament. Yung Bagobo woman. The red and yellow shirt belongs only to the wife of a man killer. Imagine mo ha, a wife killer, but the rest of the costume is typical of the Bagobo women, especially the bell-decorated bag worn from the shoulder. The cheap European fan in her hand contains strandy with a colored bead pendant which hangs from her ear to ear. Ito rin. Ito yung mga caption. Babasahin nyo ang captions sa mga binabasa nyo kasi importante, hindi nila dinidescribe yung object eh. Ang dinidescribe din ako minsan yung tao eh. O datos who have killed large numbers of enemies wear a most remarkable head ornament fashioned from cloth of gold with elaborate scarlet, blue, or white tassels. No other tribe has anything in the least like it. Man, upper part of his body is heavily padded as protection from the bolo cards. The word Bukidnon means people of the Bukid, or mountain forest, and the tribe bearing his name seems to be descended from those natives who escaped conversion and have remained in the interior from the Spanish conquest. Ito naman description na sa babae. The most of the Bukidnon are still pagan. There are few who are Christian. To this number, the girl shown in the picture belongs. Note the cross and the two rosaries worn around the neck. The necklace is formed of silver coins, Spanish, English, and Mexican pieces being represented. The extremely modern pink celluloid comb forms a curious finish to his otherwise picturesque costume. Ito, Bontok Igorot. She is in working dress. This costume, suggestive of the style prevalent in the days of Eve, is commonly worn by Bontok Igorot women during rainy weather or when working in the field. Yung mga ganitong captions, kung kayo ay nag-aaral, nagsusulat kayo ng labels para sa mga material culture natin. Hindi ito yung appropriate na kung sasabihin lang ethnographer si Worcester, hindi ito sulat ng isang ethnographer. Katulad sa Negrito. The original inhabitants of the Philippines were the Negritos, of whom about 25,000 still remain. They are pygmy people, the tallest man being seldom about 4 feet 10 inches high. They are curious dark brown or black in color, have woolly hair, and can use their toes almost as well as their fingers. These people are probably the lowest type of human beings known and have been described as not far above the anthropoid apes. O di ba nakaka-insulto? Ganun, pag meron kayong opportunity, silipin niyo itong issue na ito na sinulat ni itong volume na ito, tingnan nyo mabuti kung paano describe yung mga IP natin. Hindi, dapat sana dinidescribe mo man lamang kung ano yung suot nila, saan nila ginagamit, paano ginagawa, di ba? Okay, sabihin mo may stature, pero hindi mo lalagyan ng mga negative na mga innuendos na para ba nakaka-insulto. Ang daming labels niya, no? Ganyan ang mga bahay nila. Yan, yung mga bahay nila. No, yan ang kinukunan niya. Pero hindi niya kinukunan yung mga rice terraces na ang gaganda. Pero bago dumating ang mga Amerikano, ito yung mga German na nagsulat dito. Marami naman sila na-contribute. Pero marami rin silang mga ninakaw na mga artifacts na ngayon ay nandun sa Europe. Meron kasi akong isang kaibigan na nasa university, nasa Berlin, at sinasabi niya kung andun yung mga collection, makikita mo mga collection na nilabas ng mga German bago dumating ang mga Amerikano. Pero karamihan ng kanilang kinukuha noon, maliban pa sa material culture natin, ay mga bungo at saka mga buto, skeletons. Kasi nga kino-compare nila, sinusukat nila yan. Kino-compare nila sa mga European na mga ano, kasi panahon noon ni Darwin na kung sino yung mas malaki atang ulo o kamay o ano, ay mas superior na race. So, nakaka-frustrate na karamihan niya, nagmamapping sila makikita mo ang dami-daming artifacts na sa labas ng bansa. Pero anong mangyayari sa atin dito? Wala naman tayo ma-exhibit na sa ating mga museum. Exhaustive collecting of cultural artifacts has existed for at least 400 years. Yet few have linked the growth of museums with increasingly threatened existence of those cultures on display, or question either the ethics of collecting contemporary cultural artifacts or its consequences on small societies. Kaya kailangan pinag-uusapan din natin ng ethics pagdating sa pag-collecta ng artifacts. Meron niya mga, mukhang itong pang hindi pa na pag-uusapan yung ethics ng pagkokolekta eh. Dr. Carl Hutter, who once curated the digitized collection of Philippine cultures at the University of Michigan, remarked, "The act of collecting ethnographic specimens must be seen as an act of taking possession, physically and symbolically, of some of the essence of individuals as well as the whole societies and cultures. For the third world, this aspect of private and museological collecting is just another element of the larger colonial context." So, anong gagawin natin? Hindi tayo magkokolekta kasi para rin tayo mang kolonyal. Effects of collecting on indigenous people. The effects of collecting on indigenous people can be devastating. The removal of sacred pieces not only causes a shortage of necessary ceremonial objects, but belittles indigenous religion or removing sacred objects may result in spiritual crises, like the case of stolen mummies from the Kabayan and the trading of Ifugao idols. Di ba yung mga bulol pa na iba? So anong future ng ating ethnographic museums? O anong future ng ating mga communities kung wala na tayong material culture? William Sturtevant argued that anthropology museums or museums of ethnology had consistently lost their importance for anthropology at large because of declining interest in anthropological study of material culture. The neglect of museums that were often faced with conflicting tasks, the recruitment of wrong staff, and the museum's lack of theoretical interest, katapusan ng ating mga museums. Ito ang mga negrito nung punta ako sa kanila noong 1967. Ganito pa rin naman sila ngayon. Ito, ang matasaday nung pumunta ako noong 1971. So, ito ngayon ang ginagawa ko, yung kay Dr. Fox, At hangga't maaari, ginagamit ko rin ang material culture sa mga ginagawa kong documentaries at saka sa mga mainstream na pelikula. Kasi katulad kayo, halimbawa marami kayong engineer dyan, pwede kayong pumasok sa conservation. Mga sa agriculture, pwede kayong, marami kayong pwedeng gawin. Maggawa kayo ng mga technology na appropriate para hindi nila ibenta yung kanila mga artifacts. Kaya marami nagbebenta ng artifacts nila. Katulad ngayon, may mga nagpapabenta sa akin ng mga artifacts nila galing Tiboli kasi nga pandemic. So anong gagawin natin? Ang Cultural Properties Division ng National Museum ay merong police powers, pero hindi naman na ginagawa yung police powers nila. Kaya nawawala, kahit katulad niyan, yung looting ng ating artifacts, ang dalas, karamihan mga embassy pa nga ang naglo-loot kasi nga merong diplomatic pouch na pwede lang ilabas yan na walang check-up. Ang mga antique shops naman, pupunta lang sa museum para magpa-certify kung authentic ba yun o hindi. Sasabihin naman ng isang kurap na kung sino man tumingin nun, sasabihin nila, ano lang yan, arts and crafts lang. Ay kaklasify nila yung antique na craft. So, anong role natin ngayon as ethnographers? Paano natin makokontrol ang trafficking ng ating material culture? Paubos na yun ang paubos, wala na natitira. Ang ginagawa ngayon ng ating mga katutubo, nagtatayo sila ng schools for living traditions. At nire-revive nila ang artifact. Ang problema lang, kung minsan wala silang pagkopyahan. Meron tayong natitirang patawag natin na mga living treasures. Ito yung mga masters ng craft, ng weaving, ng basketry. Recognized na yun ng United Nations. Pero karamihan niya nawawala na. So anong next step na gagawin natin kung wala na tayong material culture? Anong ating pag-aaralan? Museums, balik na naman tayo sa museum. Kakatalog tayo, mag-identify tayo ng specimen, mag-preserve tayo, pa-conserve tayo. Pero anong gagawin natin? Paano tayo, halimbawa, magtatayo ka ng exhibit? Paano mo lalagyan ng caption niyan? Paano ka magagawa ng story tungkol sa mga objects na yan? Kung hindi ka familiar kung wala na pati yung mga ating IP na nakakaalam kung mga items na yan. Kasi wala na, detached na sila sa objects matagal na. Matagal na yung, katulad yung sa Europe, matagal na yung nandoon. Mula pa ng 18th century, nandoon na, ninakaw na. So ang ginagawa ng National Museum, katulad yung sa Mami, gumagawa na repatriation pero napakamahal. Bago ka mag-repatriate na isang Mami na ninakaw, ang mahal-mahal at saka ang gastos ng ritual para ibalik. Kung meron ba kayong mga tanong, meron akong binigay para sa mga participants na parang manual for field ethnography. Meron dong page kung paano ka mag-document ng artifact na makukuha mo sa isang community. Pwede nyo gamitin yun para detalyado naman yan. Tapos meron din akong binigay na mga forms for analysis na parang worksheets. Paano kayo mag-analyze ng artifact, paano kayo mag-analyze ng document, paano kayo mag-analyze ng photograph, ng video, ng music, at ng mapa. Open na ako for questions.
So participants with questions po, you can key in through the chat box your questions.
Tanong ko lang nga din, yung mga money, diba? Meron pa kasi nanood ako mga video parang nagiging parang tourist spot. May mga lugar dyan na parang pinupuntahan ng mga tourist.
Doc Ami, yung may ilang featured documentaries kasi sa television yung mga katutubo dito sa Camarines Norte. Hindi ko sigurado kung yun yung nakita mo. But mostly mga journalist ang nagpi-feature sa kanila. Hindi talaga mga ethnologists or anthropologists po.
O dapat meron kasing ano yan eh. Ayan si Daniel, pwede kayo magpa-workshop kung paano gumawa ng ethnographic documentary. Kasi meron pa yung unang-una, merong pumunta diyan merong taga University of Hawaii, gumawa ng paper tungkol sa Manide. Nakita mo na 'yon?
Hindi pa po, hindi ko pa po nakikita.
Sige, padalan kita.
Sige po.
Oo.
Sige po, pakipadala po.
Tinatry ko siyang i-locate kasi meron akong kaibigan na nasa University of Hawaii para sana kasi ang isang gusto ko sanang i-recommend, kung alam mo ba sa buong Pilipinas walang Center for Negrito Studies. Wala pa ever. Para sila yung napag-iiwanan.
Yung okay,
wala pang Center for Negrito Studies man lamang.
Siguro yan ang pwede namin itayo dito center sa Camarines Norte. Para pwede naman university base. University based.
Para academic, pero ang maganda sana kung kasama sila sa halimbawa, kahit magtayo kayo ng community museum, pero kailangan involved sila sa pati pag
saka matagal po kasi yan, kaya talagang tedious work talaga yan.
Madugo yan.
Apo.
Madugo yan. At saka kung minsan katulad niyan, kung meron akong meron ako actually mga drawing ng iba-ibang material culture na iba-ibang katutubo. Pwede mong i-share sa mga kanil. Tingnan mo kung familiar pa rin sila, kung mare-reconstruct nila sa memory nila. Kasi hindi naman nalalayo ang Manide mo sa mga agta sa Palanan at sa Pulilyo. O nandiyan
Ang napansin ko po parang yung language sila parang nawala na, naging Tagalog na sila.
Kasi nga yun ang nagagamit nila. Pero siguro kailangan may mag-document ang language nila. Gawa sila ng dictionary. Simula kayo gumawa ng dictionary. Meron kayong dalawang museum dyan sa Bicol, di ba? Sa Legazpi ata. At Sorsogon ba yun?
Hindi ko po alam kung saan.
Sabi
Dito po sa Camarines Norte kasi wala po talagang wala pong documentation talaga yung mga katutubo.
Nawawala na nga yung lengguwahe nila kasi
nawala na
extinct na.
Po kasi sila nag-perform sila sa amin nung Memorandum of Cooperation signing. Nag-perform ang mga Manide. At napansin ko na Tagalog na yung kanta. Pati yung usapan, Tagalog na po.
May mga kasi nga na-assimilate na sila sa mga mga Tagalog ng Quezon. Di ba karamihan diyan Tagalog din?
Hindi po, ang Camarines Norte po kasi mix po kasi ang Camarines Norte. Yung malapit sa Quezon po, Tagalog. Yung malapit sa Bicol, Bicol. But then yung mga bigger towns, kasi marami ng settlers po, dumadami na po yung Tagalog speaking.
So wala na kayong assimilated na pati genetically, no? May puro pa ba kayo?
Na Manide. Meron pa po mga talagang katutubo pa yung yung kanilang heritage sa genetic heritage. Pero yung pong cultural heritage nga, especially yung language, nag-merge na po sa lowland. Naging Tagalog na po yung iba.
Nahirapan din ako sa Baguio. So, paano kayo mag-inventory? Una kasi mag-inventory kayo kung ano pa meron sila O kaya, pwede kayo magsimula rin sa folklore. Ano pa ba meron sila?
Kami talagang zero po. Ngayon pa lang kayo mag-uumpisa ng indigenous knowledge system nila. Ito pong workshop na to is to capacitate the faculty to at least make the effort to establish an indigenous knowledge system of the IPs in Camarines Norte. Ngayon pa lang po, kaya kasama po yung material culture, kasama yung social cultural practices, interactions, etc. etc. Ngayon pa lang po, pagkatapos po nito, mag-field work na sila. Doon na po ang start ng namin, ng documentation namin. Either by by writing, yung reports ng kanilang mga practices or yung material culture nila, kung ano yung mga nandun. Pero napansin ko po, dun sa kanilang presentation, meron silang pamamaraan ng paghabi ng kanilang costume. Kaya dun siguro mag-isip. Pinapaasikaso ko dun sa aming intellectual property kung pwedeng maprotektahan yung rights ng mga natives in terms dun sa kanilang native way of preparing their
Meron kasi organization dito na Council for Weaving Hobby. Baka gusto niya mag-tie up.
Sige po, ibigay po ninyo sa amin yung inyong contacts at i-contact ko para sa mga manide dito.
Meron din akong tatanong tungkol sa Abian kasi ang Bureau of DNR, alam mo ba nakalagay sa kanila walang manide, nakalagay Abian.
Sandali lang po at may pipirmahan lang akong dokumento.
Sige.
Break lang muna ako po.
Yung mga teachers, yung mga participants, wala ba magtatanong? Gusto ko sana nakikita mga mukha nila.
Ma'am, yung Sabian, ma'am.
Oo.
Old name po yan ng Kabihog. Then Tumanidi tribe. Tawag po namin yan Abyan noon.
Noon.
Apo. Tapos naging Kabihog na po yan, then naging Manidi tribe na po.
Alam mo, nung pumunta si Dr. Fox diyan noong 1967, nakakuha siya ng picture na isang manide na meron siyang septum stick sa ilong, parang sa New Zealand. Parang yung mga sa Andaman Islanders natin sa Australia, meron sa ilong niya. Septum stick ng hindi ko alam kung basta bone nakapasok sa kanyang ilong nakatusok. Wala ka na ba nakikitang ganyan diyan?
Sa ngayon, ma'am, wala na po. Nung mga unang panahon na po pa ng mga lolo ko, nakikita ko bata pa ako po noon. So yung pong may presidente po, yan sila bago maging chieftain, nag-aral po ng high school din. Pero sa ngayon patay na daw po yun, sabi ng mga tao, si Johnny de la Cruz. Yun po yung nakarating diyan na sa sa mga nagsasayaw-sayaw sila, iniimbitahan po ng National Cultural Arts.
Alam niyo ang pwede niyong gawin? Alam niyo bang mag-genealogy? May method yan gagawa ka ng genealogy, tatay, nanay, anak, ganon-ganon para i-trace mo kung nasaan sila na hindi ka na kailangan lumayo.
Yes, ma'am, kung isang tribo lang po sila, sa ngayon po ay magkakahiwalay na po kasi yung kanilang community.
Gaano kalaki population niyo?
Hindi ko po masabi ngayon yung number, pero may grupo na po kasi nandun sa Maynas Jose Panganiban, meron po sa Labo, 3 barangays na din po yun, saka may ibang areas na po na na rin sila. Nag-iba't iba na po ng tirahan, kumbaga. Naglipat-lipat na.
May nakita akong YouTube video na nagpe-painting sila. May nag-introduce na gumawa sila ng mga painting.
Yes, ma'am. Meron po kasi doon sa kanilang tribo, meron po sa kanilang arts, parang museo, sa kanilang lugar, sa Jose Panganiban. Then yung mga talent po nila, mas lalo pong dinidevelop. May isa po dong magaling na isang volunteer ng SPACP na nagtutulong sa kanila.
Alam mo, nakita ko yung pwede kayong gumawa ng parang short stories katulad na ginagawa ng Cordillera. Magawa sila ng short stories gamit yung mga illustration, mga drawings, ganyan.
Yes po ma'am. Kapag tinatanong po namin, ini-interview po namin about dun sa ginuhit po nila o pinag-drawing po nilang isang painting, bakit nila yung na-drawing, nai-elaborate po nila kung ano yung gusto ipahiwatig nito at nire-relate po nila ito sa kanilang buhay dun sa komunidad.
Meron ba silang nai-relate ba nila sa kultura o sa spirituality?
Yes, ma'am. Yes po, ma'am. Nire-relate po nila lalo yung mga yung kulay, yung mga different colors po nila, different colors na ginagamit nila. Bakit yun nagustuhan nila based from their surroundings, ma'am.
Maganda yan kasi importante yan sa material culture study, yung color categories.
Yes, ma'am. Then may mga ginawa na pong may ginawa po sila doon na lugar na talagang tourist spot na kapag pumunta ka po doon, sila po yung mismong makikita mo at meron dong lugar na pwedeng maging tourist spot na sila mismo ang main parang kumbaga ay product kung titingnan natin pero that is the wrong term. Pero sila po yung mga mag-encounter po natin doon.
Parang community-based tourism yan eh.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Community-based tourism nga po.
Ganda yan, ganda. Pero ano yung sinasabi ni Ma'am Joy, yung sa weaving?
Yes po, ma'am. Yung sa weaving,
nila? Cotton?
Yung po ma'am sa weaving po nila is a part of bark of tree na ginagamit po nilang damit mismo. Bark of a tree.
Mulberry yun, mulberry tree.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Mulberry tree nga po yun.
Yung bark
yes, ma'am. Ang ganda po nung ano yun na pwedeng ipa-reserve po yun and pwedeng gamitin ipaano po siya, ipa-patent po namin na isang pag-aari na po ng kanilang komunidad na yun ang ginamit nila. That is the good part ng kanilang kultura na ginagamit nilang part ng kanilang clothes or ng kanilang pananamit na yun ang gamit. Mulberry tree.
Sige, bibigay ko yung contact ng grupo ng hobby para tingnan nyo kung paano. Kasi council ito for textile for weaving tradition.
Yes, ma'am.
Anong ginagamit nila? Pinupukpok lang nila? O...
Yes, of course, ma'am. Pinupukpok lang po nila hanggang sa mapatuyo.
Oo. Baka may way na na yung fiber ba mapaghiwalay mo para i-weave mo siya into cloth?
I think pwede po yun, ma'am. Pwede po yun, ma'am, na ipaghiwa-hiwalay, hindi ginagawa po nilang cloth na talaga. Kung matuturuan lang po yung mga manide talaga na in a process na mabuo yung pagiging weaving of cloth, mas maganda po.
Merong mga merong diyan sa Cebu, mga engineer, nag-develop sila ng technology pang weaving. Nakita ko minsan nagpa-demo sila mga engineer sila saka mga IT. Pwede kayo magtayo rin ng community museum nyo diyan eh.
Yung po sinisimula na po yata ng Municipality of Jose Panganiban yung kanilang community ay maging isa sa mga tourism spot. Hindi lang po laging pupunta lang po doon for the researches, not only for the research, ay nagiging gusto din po nilang ano ba talaga yung mapupuntahan doon. Nagawa mismo product ng mga manite.
Maraming pwedeng tingnan ko yung yung paper padala ko diyan sa inyo.
Thank you.
Sinulat na isang isang taga Hawaii. Language nyo. Dying language ng Manide.
Okay, may mga language po yung mga Manide based from sa kanilang culture. Talagang intact po 'yon.
Bago mawala yung yung lengguwahe, i-document nyo.
Hindi pa man po nawawala kasi ma'am, hindi pa po nawawala kasi mga matatanda po na tinuturuan po talaga nila yung mga bata pa, then kinakausap po nila sa pamagitan po ng language po nila, hindi po sa language sa Filipino. Yung pong mga language sa Filipino, pag nasa outside community sila, pero pag nandun po sila, pag nandun po sila sa community na talagang yun, lalo na pag napunta po kami kasi I am the one of the extensionists doon. Pag pumupunta po kami sa kanila, talaga ang lengguwahe po nilang lengguwahe po naming maririnig sa kanila is yung talagang kulturang lengguwahe po nila. Ethno-linguistic, lengguwahe po nila.
Ang ganda. Kasi linguistics yung aking ang aking specialty yun.
Yes po. Kasi
Marunong ako magsalita ng agta ng palanan.
Sa kanila po may may similarity po kasi yung kanilang lengguwahe ng kasi ako po ay isa sa nag-aaral din po sa kanilang pamumuhay kasi po ako ay Filipino professor about linguistic din po yung focus ko sa kanila ay nakikita ko pong ang sa kanila ay talagang intact pa rin po yung lengguwahe nila, and some of the language po or the root nila is ang iba ay may Bicol mix na po sila.
Oo,
pero
ma-identify mix sa
Yes, ma'am.
Ano pangalan mo?
Edwin po. Sir Edwin po.
Sige, Edwin. Tuturo ka Pilipino?
Yes, ma'am.
Sige. Ko ipapadala ko yung article. Actually, lalagay ko nga kanina dito yung Manila kasi ang plano ko sana, hindi naman ako sigurado yung, gusto ko sana mag-focus sa Negrito studies, yung material culture ng mga Negrito. Baka pwede nilang makita yung kasi nawawala na talaga, ang dami nang nawawala.
Ang aking pong research, ma'am, is about po doon sa contextual ng kanilang study. For example, from the Manide, transfer to Filipino and English. Kasi ang focus ko po ng aking research is linguistikong pag-aaral ng lengguwaheng Manide sa kagamitang pampagtuturo po yung focus ko sa kanila.
Doc Edwin, saan lugar ka ng Manide pumunta?
J-Pang po, ma'am. J-Pang.
Okay, so ibig sabihin yung J-Pang, yung pumunta ba yan doon sa atin, yung nagpakita sa atin?
Yes po, ma'am. Yes.
Kasi Tagalog na sila, Doc Edwin. Tagalog na sila.
Pero po Tagalog po sila, ma'am. Pero pag nandun po sila sa community nila, pag doon po, ma'am, sa community, once kami pumupunta doon sa kanila, talagang sila po nag-uusap ng kanilang lengguwahe. Pero pag kinausap mo po sila, marunong po silang mag-transform ng kanilang lengguwahe through Filipino.
Yeah, but the performance they did, the ritual, the song was Filipino.
Filipino na po.
Filipino, oo.
Opo.
Nawala yung original na kanta.
Opo, pero alam ko po, ma'am, Doc Jo, meron po silang ganon na translate lang po talaga yata sa Filipino if ever. Tanungin ko po si Mr. Chris, meron po sila yatang language na yun ang song nila.
Pakitanong mo, Doc Edwin, kung bakit din nawala yung mga NCIP dito sa ating seminar workshop. Dapat kasama sila dito, di ba?
Okay po, sige.
Tanong mo rin.
Sige po, tanong ko rin din po.
Ma'am, idagdag ko lang po sa na-mention po ni Doc Edwin po, ma'am. Every year po kasi, dati po, nung hindi pa po pandemic, yung Novenario Night po, ma'am, nagpe-perform po talaga yung mga Manide. Kumbaga po, yung culture nila and then language po ay naipe-present nila doon through dancing, singing. So, meron po silang isang araw, pero po gabi po siya pina-perform na lahat lang po na ginagawa ng mga Manide sa kanila pong tribe po.
Yes, ma'am. Kasi yun ay IP week po nila yun, a month of October. Nagkakaroon po sila ng IP.
Yes po, yung Novenario Night po, sir.
Opo.
Alam mo, kasi ganitong ginagawa ko sa dahil kasi hindi ako nakakapunta. Pwede kayong gumamit ng smartphone for documentation.
Ma'am?
Mga smartphone, pwede na pang documentary.
Yes po, ma'am. Kaya lang po.
Pero pabiyaan mo sila yung mag-shoot. Ang importante lang turuan sila kung paano gamitin.
Doon po sa kanila kasi may mga marurunong na rin pong gumamit ng cellphone, yung mga nakapag-aral na po. Meron na din po sila, marunong na din pong gumamit ng cellphone, gumamit ng pagkuha ng larawan. Marunong na din po sila, ma'am.
Storytelling. At least, kaya din na-document nila yung kala music.
Siguro po, ihingin po natin ng permiso tungkol po para po doon kasi sila po mismo, ang alam ko po hindi po basta lang kukuha ng ano doon. Sila po hingi po ng permiso na magkukuha ng dokumentaryo po doon.
Hindi, sila
Apo.
mismo. Ang gawin nyo, i-workshop nyo sila.
Opo, sige po.
Sila ang gagawa ng sarili nilang documentary.
Opo, sige po.
Para wala ka ng first and prior informed consent.
Isasama po namin sila sa sa aming pa-workshop siguro para ano. Pero meron
Tama po,
kasi
Doktor.
meron na kasi tayo, Doc Edwin, ng Memorandum of Cooperation sa NCIP.
Opo.
So medyo hindi na ganun kahirap yung pagkuha ng ng documentation. I-inform lang natin si provincial officer ng NCIP to inform her kung bibisita, halimbawa bibigyan ng schedule kung anong gagawin natin.
Opo.
Baka pwede yun.
Consultant din ako sa NCIP pero sa Palawan ako madalas. Marami pa akong ano. O sige, marami naman pala kayong plano, maganda yan. Pero maganda yung yung bark plot. Mulberry yun. Mulberry tree yun.
Pinapaanohan po namin ng patent sana yung kanilang pag-produce para at least protected yung kanilang process ng production.
At saka hindi, pagpadami kayo ng puno niya. Di ba may agriculturist kayo dyan? O di kayo, magpropagate kayo ng... At saka meron silang mga traditional dyes.
Yung yung ibang participant,
ng colors,
masasabi nila? Mukhang nawala na yung iba. Anong nangyari? Tanong kayo, ito yung expert natin. Ito na yung pagkakataon natin. Bihirang mangyari ito.
Ma'am, bakit dati ang dami niyo 54? Anong nangyari?
Doc Ami, I was so envious nang sabihin doon sa introduction na meet mo si Margaret Mead. Idol ko kasi si Margaret Mead.
Hindi ko nga akala, sabi ko, ano ba ito? Mula ng bata akong anthropologist. Tama, Margaret. Hindi, ang tatay ko kasi photography kasi kami, business namin. Meron kami ang concessionaire sa Pines Hotel. So, nung time na may seminar, nandun din ako nakikinig. Lagi ako nag-a-attend ng seminar.
One of the, kasi isa siya sa mga pioneer women anthropologists eh. Can you imagine in 1922 yet or 1925 when there were no regular ships going to the Pacific, no? Andun si Margaret Mead at 22 years old, no, ready to do her field work. amazed ako sa kanya. Malakas masyado ang loob niya sa sa paggawa ng field work. Dear faculty members, tingnan nyo 22 years old yung isa sa mga pioneering women anthropologists, Margaret Mead, went on her field work at 22 or 23 yata in the Pacific. Hindi niya alam ang language, walang regular na biyahe yung mga ship, and yet she went, no? Ganun siya katapang or courageous siya. O nawala si Ma'am Ami? Nawala si Doc Ami? Hello, kamusta kayo? Nakatulog na ba kayo?
Gising po, ma'am.
Magising ka. Alam mo, love you, Sirlyn, talagang bilib ako sa iyo kahit na anong topic talaga ikaw yung pinakagising yata sa company.
Nagustuhan ko po kasi, ma'am, yung mga dinidiscuss at bago po sa akin. And maganda po kasi yung mga topic.
Yung iba, ano yung mga tanong nila? Material culture, even if, kung hindi indigenous peoples yung inyong subject of study, and I hope na yung indigenous knowledge system na i-establish natin is only one part of research, no? We also want to document lahat ng ethno-communities natin within the province, no? Anong ibig kong sabihin ng may mga ethno-communities na yung mga fishing communities natin, yung mga agricultural communities natin, pwede nating gawa ng ethnography, no? May ginagawa ngayon yung Queen Pineapple, yung mga engage sa Queen Pineapple production. Meron silang ginagawang of course may scientific dimension, meron ding gender dimension ng pineapple production. Ethnography can be used in any group, no? para sa ating ng research. IKS is just one aspect that we can do, no, in indigenous knowledge system. Back na si Dr. Ami. Okay, so any question?
Hello po. Hello po, Doc Jo.
Yes.
About po doon sa mga NCIP participant po natin, this day po kasi is the time of kanilang tawag dito, pag community ano po sila, meron po silang pagpupulong doon sa mga NCIP ngayong araw na naka-schedule po.
Hindi, napansin ko doon, even doon sa ibang modules na wala na sila. Hindi lang ngayong araw, Doc Win.
Yun lang po yung sabi sa amin.
Okay.
Okay po.
Gusto lang nating malaman kung bakit.
Oo, meron na ulit. Ikaw nakamute ka.
Nakamute ka po, Ma'am Jo.
Any question, any comment?
O yung mga gumagawa ng thesis.
O yung mga nagka-qualitative research. Ngayon na yung pagkakataon nyo magsalita.
Sige. Papadala po kayo ng manide materials. Ako negrito materials, pwede nyo compare. Ang consultant kasi nila, si Dr. Lori Reed, yung pinakamagaling na linguist sa Negrito languages. Yung nag-research diyan sa inyo.
Okay po.
Meron akong paper niyo. I-email ko na lang sa iyo.
Sige po, sige po.
Oo. Sige na. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye na daw.
Wala na ba magtatanong dyan?
Wala na magtatanong. Ano po, mag-ano po tayo ng certificate of commendation. Doc Jocelyn. Wala na raw tanong eh.
Yes, ma'am. So, wala na pong hahabol ng tanong.
Alam mo, mas magandang face-to-face, no?
Mas maganda po talaga face-to-face. Hindi naman talaga pwedeng, pwede pong ma-substitute ang Zoom sa face-to-face.
Hindi mo nakikita yung kausap mo. Ganda sana nakikita mo para pwede mo i-direct yung answer sa kanya.
So thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much to our resource person this afternoon. So at this point, we want to award the certificate of commendation to Dr. Amelia Arara in grateful recognition of her distinguished and invaluable service rendered as resource person during the Doing Ethnography seminar workshop held on August 2, 2021, thereby contributing immeasurably to the prestige and success of the event, given the second day of August 2021 via Zoom platform. Signed by the college president of CNSC, Dr. Marlo M. de la Cruz. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you po.
Na-enjoy ko. Hindi ko alam kung gagawin ko. Platform na. Hindi mo alam, katulad niya na walang wifi.
So, Doc Ami, kung kailangan mo ng crew in any of your undertakings, marami kami mga batang pwedeng ipresenta. Yung sinasabi mo sa Palawan, ako nagpipresenta na ako. Ipipresenta ko rin si Dr. Edwin. You just let me know what you want to be done. We can assemble a team to fully support you kung kailangan mo ng kamay at paa, ma'am.
Yung mga gagawa ng documentary dyan.
we actually have ang tawag doon sa isang camera na Doc Win, anong klaseng camera yung pwedeng nasa taas?
Yung drone po, ma'am. Drone.
Meron po kaming drone sa CNSC na pwede nating kaya lang kasama po yung technician. If you want to make use of it, kasama yung technician na siyang mag-ooperate ng drone. But we can actually do aerial surveys now ng isang lugar at makuna ng view yung yung isang community
Drone.
through drone.
Pwede na kayong mag-Google Map. Nag-drone lang kayo, Google Map mo na.
Ano po, please do not hesitate to contact us if you need a ready crew, an enthusiastic crew na natutulong sa inyo.
Ang laki ng campus niyo, ganda.
6 na campuses po yan in 5 municipalities. Ganun po extensive yung coverage ng CNSC. Maliit kaming kolehiyo pero in terms ng coverage, we are in 5 municipalities of Camarines Norte out of 12 kasi 12 municipalities po yan. And yung aming campuses would have College of Agriculture and Natural Resources. We have the Institute of Fisheries and Marine Sciences. At meron po kaming College of Technology, yung COTT, where Love Wizarding comes from. At marami pong colleges din pero we are more known sa College of Engineering po dahil nga we are number 4 I think nationally in terms of performance sa board exam ng electrical engineering po. Number 4 yata ang Camarines Norte State College po.
Okay. Ang maganda diyan sa inyo meron kayong communities na pwede yung nasubukan niyo na bang mag-farm schools?
Magano po?
Farm schools.
Hindi pa po yata.
Farm schools project yan ng program yan ng Department of Agriculture.
Okay. Hindi ko pa narinig sa aming mga researchers. Meron po kami mga researchers na funded ng DA, Department of Agriculture, pero I don't think that's part of that. Usually po kasi yung nakita ko pong grant ng DA yung tungkol po sa mechanization kasi ginawa ng aming agricultural engineer
Ito farm schools talagang community based.
Okay po.
Oo. Tapos meron siyang training din, na training component. Ang tawag niyan farm business school. Hindi lang siya farm ka. Meron kang train ka rin para
Okay pa. So, Ma'am Josie, isa pa po lang, natuwa ako nang nakita sa iyong bio note. Isa pa pong kinatuwa ko doon sa iyong bio note, yung inyong Korean telenovela. kasi po ako, blink ako. Mahilig din ako sa sa Korean K-pop. Ngayon, ang gusto ko sa kanila yung Blackpink yata, yung Blackpink. Blinks ang mga fans, ang tawag sa mga fans.
Yung mga blink. Kami naman na anak ko na taga DepEd Basta ang break namin telenovela. Ang pinapanood namin Love from the Stars.
Apo. Sige, Ma'am, Dr. Jocelyn, pwede na tayo sa commendation.
Yes, ma'am, we're done with the certificate of commendation, ma'am. We have already awarded the certificate. So I think, ma'am, we can also remind our participants to please, again, turn on your video para po sa ating photo documentation. As we listen, ma'am, to the closing remarks to be given by our Vice President for Research and Extension, Dr. Josefina Socorro Tondo.
Okay, let me just capture the attendees. Isang screen na lang tayo, nawala na yung iba. Okay, let's go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. Isa pa. 1, 2, 3. So I would like to close this on a very, very hopeful note. You know that we have a change of leadership, that we are on transition. I did actually submit my courtesy resignation to allow the new president to reorganize his administrative council. But I was just informed that the submitted courtesy resignation was disapproved, mainly because he wanted all the officials to stay put as holdover to help him and navigate the university initially, to help him. So in that sense, I stay on as Vice President for Research and Extension Services. in this sense, we have one major cooperation again with UGAT coming this December, which is the international conference ng UGAT. It's usually the annual conference. It just happens na international yan, mainly because there is one board member who comes from Malaysia. Kaya, di ba, as according to the rule, pag merong isang tao diyan na galing sa sa international, merong yan. May international dimension na yan. And we are expecting international participants, especially the journal Sapiens will be joining that conference as according to the UGAT president, Esquilti La Bastilla. Okay. So in that sense, I wish to thank the team, especially the technical team, si Mr. Lester Apunin, si Engineer Leo Vela, my OBIPRE team, si Dr. Ana, si Miss Jed Mohal, si Clary Ann, si Dr. Win, si Dr. Kahit wala dito si Dr. Dan Maligat kasi he actually helped a lot in preparing the certificates and of the participants. Prepare din yung mga certificates ng participants. Kailangan lang namin ma-finalize by you submitting all the requirements in terms of registration and evaluation po. Huwag kalilimutan. Now we will organize a debriefing again. Kapareho ng ginawa natin sa first session, may debriefing tayo sa second session. I will try to organize it this Friday so that you can actually ask all your questions in terms of completion, the certificate of completion, and all other things that you may have concerns about. But let us walk towards the future with hope. Sabi nga ni Julian of Norwich, all will be well, and all will be well, and in all manner of things, all will be well. Kahit nasa transition tayo, things are uncertain, everything will be okay. Don't forget to keep the faith that the university will be all right, because the basic infrastructures of good administration has been installed by the previous administration. All we need to do is follow the strategic plan. Yun lang po ang kailangan natin. We have to be faithful to the strategic plan for the coming 10 years, 10 to 12 years. And therefore, I have a lot of faith in you. I don't think I will see the finish line of that plan kasi senior citizen na po ako. And then, but I do hope that you keep on believing in a better CNSC, in a better University of Camarines Norte, and that you are able to balance qualitative and quantitative research, which we are doing now kasi nakita ko pa na quantitative talaga yung mga researches. And therefore, even the CNSCRJ Research Journal, yung mga issuance yan, mga balance din. Balancing between different approaches or methodologies of anthropology. Having said that, I wish you all the best, and I will see you in the debriefing session. And for the facilitators who can join us, I will also post yung Zoom link so that for the facilitators to be able to join us if they have time. Ano po?
Oo, kung meron silang mga questions,
Opo. So, okay po. So, all the best to all of you. I will see you later. No. Maraming salamat si Mr. Lester. Inadapt na yan ng OBIPRE. Palagi namin kasama sa lahat ng mga attendance, mga activities namin. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat.
Thank you very much po to our CNSC Vice President for Research and Extension. So again po, thank you very much sa ating mga resource persons from day 1 up to the last day, up to this afternoon. Maraming salamat po sa inyong pagbibigay ng oras at kaalaman sa mga taga Camarines Norte State College. At sa ating mga research participants, thank you din po sa inyong active participation sa ating Doing Ethnography Seminar Workshop. Maraming salamat po. Have a blessed day.
I am requesting the OBIPRE team to stay on. I will meet with you later.
Bye po. Ay, leave pala. Ay.
Jo, habang nandyan ka po, pwede pong magtanong kung kanina daw po isa-send yung mga ginawa daw po na groupings na assignment po and then po yung...
Ilagay nyo, halimbawa isang grupo kayo, or individually. Di ba meron tayong Google Doc forms? Gawa kayo ng folder doon ng mga submissions nyo para mas madali nating ma-check kung naibigay ba lahat ng submissions. Ano?
Okay po, ma'am.
Pwede,
Thank you po.
Thank you. I will also discuss it with you sa Friday kung paano talaga mas magandang paraan natin ng ng submissions para maayos yung pagbibigay din ng mga certificates. Yung enter lang po, tapos na po yung session. You can leave now and I will just meet with my team para sa aming debriefing. Tapos na po. Sino yung mga yun? Wag nang mag-admit, technical team, wag na kayong mag-admit ng personal kasi tapos naman. And can you please put off the recording?